Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise in the House today and support a motion 100. This motion from the member from Brossard, St. Lambert, proposes the government recognize the important role that cooperatives play in the economy and ensure that they continue to strive. It's no secret the cost of housing is extremely high and continues to break records across Canada. The average price for homes around my riding of Yellowhead is approximately half of the national average, still affordable to hard-working Albertans. But this low average does not mean access to affordable housing is not an issue in my riding. In my riding, Yellowhead, multiple towns rely on funding from the province to provide housing to low-income families and seniors. Housing co-ops make a valuable contribution to affordable housing, providing lodging to approximately 250,000 Canadians across Canada. In the town of Rocky Mountain House, we have 2 housing co-ops serving 28 families. In the town of Hinton, we have 47 unit complexes. In the town of Edson, there are 24 units. In the town of Drayton Valley, we have 26 units and another 20 to be built. Even in Jasper National Park, Mr. Speaker, there also exist cooperative housing units. Our party supports multi-pronged approach to affordable cooperative housing involving provincial, territorial, and municipal governments. M100 attempts to do just that. Motion 100 calls on the government to develop a federal cooperative strategy to promote and support Canada's cooperative sector through consultations with the provinces and territories, municipalities, Indigenous communities, and cooperative groups. Our previous Conservative government worked with all governments and Indigenous groups to develop and implement affordable housing solutions by committing close to $2 billion to build new units and repair and update existing social housing. The Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, better known as CMHC, has largely been the government's tool by which financial aid programs have been delivered. Our party spent almost $19 billion on housing through CMHC since 2006, a lot more than in the present budget. Through initiatives such as the Investment in Affordable Housing, IAF, and the Housing First initiative, we empowered Canadians and fought homelessness at a fundamental level. Our Conservative Party also sought to minimize difficulties by equipping CMHC with a wide range of tools, Mr. Speaker, to enable home providers to plan for the end of funding and to allow for flexibility in specific programs, especially in regards to renovations and capital repairs. If federal funding agreement ends, tens of thousands of low-income households across this country, including seniors, newcomers, lone parent families, people with disabilities, and others, are in danger of becoming homeless without this government's reinvestment in co-op housing. Co-ops and other community housing programs built under federal programs are aging, as all of us are, and have to devote more of their revenues to covering rising maintenance and other operating costs. Most will have to remortgage their properties to carry out major renovations and upgrades in the near future. This is why a renewed commitment from the federal and provincial governments to support affordable housing for low-income residents in co-ops and other housing communities is necessary. I believe that all Canadians should have a reasonable opportunity to own their own home and have access to safe and affordable housing. In his mandate, the Minister for Families, Children and Social Development has been tasked with renewing federal leadership in housing, prioritizing investments in affordable housing, including construction and renovation, as well as community financial aid for housing initiatives. This is just one reason why I hope all parties will support this motion. But, Mr. Speaker, there are other kinds of cooperatives besides housing. The Canadian cooperative sector includes close to 8,000 incorporated cooperatives, and it employs over 90,000 Canadians in urban, rural, and remote communities across Canada. In the tradition of their founders, cooperative members believe in ethical values of honesty, openness, social responsibility, and caring for others. They can apply this cooperative business model to almost any type of enterprise: agriculture, utilities, finance, education, housing, retail, and more. Most of the debate on this motion has revolved around the financial cooperative sector, which includes credit unions and insurance cooperatives. Owned and democratically controlled by their members, these co-ops provide affordable lending and insurance services to Canadians. Perhaps one of the oldest types of co-ops in my province of Alberta is that of the agricultural sector, when farmers got together to help sell their product and to purchase grain products. In fact, Mr. Speaker, many of these cooperatives have grown over the years. As my fellow member from West Loch, Peace River had mentioned. An example, the largest retailer in the town of Rocky Mountain House is the Co-op, which sells food, clothing, hardware building supplies, chemicals, feed, petroleum products, and much more. There are many of these throughout Canada, including my province. And as my learned friend had mentioned earlier, the Nerlandia Co-op, I thought was one of the biggest in Alberta until I saw the one that's in Rocky Mountain House. But what he forgot to tell people here is the pride of his community. He's a very humble man, and so is the community. They built that building. It's a massive structure, almost the size of this one. They built it, shovels, rubber boots on, laying the cement. Everybody in the community participated. It was a great cooperative action in that community. Many of these old cooperatives are still active, like the United Farmers of Alberta. Electricity and gas distribution cooperatives have also been quite successful in Alberta. At one time, the rural electrification program carried out by the cooperatives accounted for about 90% of electricity supplied to Alberta farmers. Rural electrification associations in 2007 represented more than 45,000 electrical users in the province. And in the 1990s, these cooperatives accounted for over 54% of the total sales of energy to cooperatives in Canada. There are also cooperatives in the service sector, Mr. Speaker. Communities form child care cooperatives when they want to have some control over the involvement in their children's care and education. They range in size and include preschool co-ops, daycare co-ops, babysitting co-ops, etc. Clearly, cooperatives come in all shapes and sizes and are valuable to many communities across Canada. The cooperative sector has a positive impact on our economy and helps to create jobs. I urge all parties in this House to recognize the important role that cooperatives play in the economy and ensure that they continue to thrive. In closing, Mr. Speaker, it's paramount that all parties in this House cooperate together to support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here.